Recording begins. Interior, quiet. The low creak of a wooden chair, no wind. Indoors, late. Tonight I need to confirm whether the coordinate forming on the document matches a symbol on Hannah's grid map. If it does, then the archive didn't just close the Marginal Road node. It pointed us to another one. Hannah spread the copied grid map across the kitchen table 20 minutes ago and hasn't moved from it since. It isn't the original. The original is still in the southern node chamber beneath 47 Marginal Road, behind a door neither of us can currently open, inside a building that now has a municipal placard on its exterior and a padlock we didn't put there. This is the version Hannah reproduced by hand before the building sealed. Every line traced deliberately, every symbol copied from the original with the same mechanical pencil she uses for everything that matters. The one with the worn grip and the replaceable lead she buys in bulk. Every mark on this map meant something when she drew it. Except one. I'm going to describe the map for the recording because I want to have this on tape before we go any further. Hannah has looked at this copy so many times she no longer needs to be told what's on it, but I do. And I want my understanding of it recorded in my own words, in the sequence I came to understand it, because that's how I'll catch it if I start misremembering details. The southern node grid map covers an area larger than I initially understood. When I first saw it, in the chamber below 47 Marginal Road, mounted on the wall behind the junction equipment, I assumed it was a local map. City scale. The kind of thing that tracks a building's infrastructure across a few city blocks. Something administrative. Something produced by the same institutional instinct that puts fire escape routes on the back of hotel doors. It isn't that. Hannah's copy makes that clearer than the original did, partly because she annotated it while she was transcribing, and the annotations force you to reckon with the scale. She drew a small scale bar in the lower left corner based on two reference points she was able to confirm during the investigation. Two locations she could verify independently against real-world geography. 1 centimeter on Hannah's copy equals approximately 40 kilometers on the ground. The grid covers hundreds of square kilometers. Coastline, inland terrain, open water. The coastline detail is accurate enough that I recognize sections of it when I looked carefully. The inland lines don't correspond to roads or railways or anything I can identify. They're the archive's own geometry. A grid that doesn't align with anything built by anyone else. Dozens of intersection points, each one marked with a symbol. The edges of the map, all 4 of them, don't terminate at a boundary. They just stop, mid-grid, which means the network continues beyond what was visible in the chamber. Whatever the full map looks like, we have a portion of it. The portion Hannah could copy in the time she had. The symbols fall into categories. Hannah identified 3 during the Season 1 investigation. Crescent marks, the ones that guided us through 47 Marginal Road. Parallel line marks, 2 short lines, side by side, which we never decoded, but which appeared at a cluster of intersections in the northeastern quadrant of the map. And a third category, single symbols, isolated, each one slightly different from the others. No clustering, no repetition. The one at latitude 51.4 is in this third category. Hannah drew a small circle around it in pencil when she was making the copy, not because she knew what it was, because she didn't. I want to walk through what I know about the symbol before we start making assumptions about what the coordinate means. When I copied it from the original, I had approximately 4 minutes in that section of the chamber before the hum changed pitch and I needed to move. I'm confident I copied the outer shape correctly. It's enclosed, it has a boundary, unlike the parallel line marks which are open at both ends. The interior has detail I may not have captured fully. There are 2 marks inside the boundary. They could be letters, they could be notation. I was working fast, and I'm not certain the interior is accurate. What I am certain of is the location on the grid. I measured twice before I left the chamber. It sits at the intersection of 2 grid lines. the same as every other node marker on the map. It isn't in the margin. It isn't incidental. It is a marked position in the network. I ask her what she thinks the interior marks could be. She says she's been considering two possibilities. The first is that they're numerals, a node number, the way the crescent marks at 47 Marginal Road had step numbers cut beneath them. The second is that they're a different alphabet entirely, something older than the notation system used for the crescent nodes. I ask her which she thinks is more likely. She says she doesn't know yet. She says that's why she wanted to look at it alongside the coordinate. I've been building toward this comparison for the last 40 minutes. Since we came inside from the street, since Hannah made tea that neither of us has touched, since she unrolled the map and weighted the corners with 2 books and a glass, and we both stood over it in the kitchen light, trying to decide where to start. The problem with starting was that neither of us wanted to say the obvious thing first. The obvious thing being, if the coordinate aligns with the symbol, then the archive just told us where to go next. And if it told us where to go next, then we have to decide whether we're going. We haven't had that conversation yet. But it's been sitting at the edge of everything we've said since we got in. The coordinate from the document is 51.4. Partial, still unresolved on the longitude axis. The document didn't finish printing it. The node field began to form, and then the page shifted under Hannah's hand, and we lost it. What we have is a latitude, a band, enough to cross-reference against the map if the grid scale Hannah established is accurate. She's placing the ruler now, horizontal across the map, aligning it with the latitude marks she drew along the left edge of the copy. Small tick marks, labeled in her handwriting, at intervals she calculated from the scale bar. The scale puts 51.4 degrees approximately 6 centimeters from the bottom edge of Hannah's copy. She slides the ruler up incrementally, 1 centimeter, 2. She's counting under her breath, which she doesn't usually do. I notice this and don't say anything about it. I'm watching the ruler cross the grid. At 6 centimeters, the ruler bisects 4 intersection points. 3 of them are crescent marks. One of them is the unknown symbol. Hannah doesn't say anything immediately. She keeps the ruler exactly where it is and reaches for the pencil. She marks the 4 intersection points with small dots, then circles the unknown symbol separately. Then she sets the pencil down and looks at what she's drawn. I ask her what the margin of error is on her scale bar. She says there's less than half a centimeter at this reproduction size, which at 40 kilometers per centimeter means a potential error of roughly 20 kilometers. I ask whether that's enough to discount the alignment. She says no. She says at this scale, 20 kilometers is precision. She says the coordinate is pointing at that symbol. So now we have a problem. I ask her what the problem is. The crescent nodes have a protocol: records room, stairwell, second floor registration, convergence point. Every crescent node we have evidence for follows that sequence. The sequence is how the archive registers investigators. It's how you move through the system in a way the system recognizes. The parallel line nodes, I don't know, we never decoded those, but they cluster together, which suggests a relationship between them, some kind of linked set. The isolated symbols, the ones in the third category, including this one, they don't cluster, they don't repeat. Each one is unique, which means if they represent node types, they represent node types that each appear exactly once in the network. I ask what she means by that. I mean, this symbol at 51.4 may not have a stairwell. It may not have a records room. It may not have any of the infrastructure we use to navigate 47 Marginal Road. If it's a node at all, it might operate on an entirely different protocol than anything we've encountered. I've been sitting with that since she said it. The investigation up to now has had a structure, not a comfortable one, not a safe one, but a legible one. There were rules. You find the building, you find the sequence inside it, You read the objects in the correct order with the correct kind of attention. The archive responds to that. There are crescent marks telling you where you are in the process. There is a second floor where your registration happens, and you can see the evidence of it on a catalog card with your name on it. There is a hum that gets faster when you're doing it correctly and stops entirely when it's finished. All of that is strange. All of it is outside anything I would have accepted as real before this investigation. But it is structured. It has a grammar. You can learn it. What Hannah is describing is a node with no visible sequence, no crescent cut into the door frame, no posted protocol, a location the network is pointing us toward that operates on rules we haven't encountered and may not be able to learn in advance. I find I have no framework for how to prepare for that. I ask her if she thinks it's still an investigator node, whether it could be something else, infrastructure or relay, or something the network uses internally that isn't meant to be entered. She picks up the map again and looks at the symbol for a long moment. It's at an intersection. It has the same grid placement as every other marked node. Whatever it is, the system put it there the same way it put everything else there. She sets the map down. I think we have to go to it and find out what it is. I'm recording the next part carefully because I want to be precise about the sequence of events, and I want to have been precise about it before I knew what it meant. While Hannah was talking, while she was explaining the implications of the isolated symbol category and what it might mean for a node that appears exactly once in the network, I had the .0 closure document on the table beside me. I'd set it flat next to Hannah's map when we sat down so we could compare them directly, reference one against the other, without having to pass either back and forth. I'd been looking at both while she spoke. Map, then document, document, then map, trying to hold both in mind at once. The document was lying face up in the light. I noticed the change because I happened to be looking at it at the right moment, or the wrong moment, depending on how you think about what it means to see something like this. The node, field, the one that began forming as Hannah reached for the frame last night on the front step of 47 Marginal Road, the one that shifted sharply when the page moved and we lost it, it had continued updating. Not while we watched, not dramatically. Sometime between when we came inside and now, without either of us paying attention to it, the field had resolved further. Not to completion, but further than it was. It now read, node, rook, and then it stopped. The same truncation, the same sense of something that isn't finished yet, only paused, only waiting for whatever condition the network requires before it releases the next character. I read it aloud. Slowly, the way you read something, you want to make sure you're reading correctly before you commit to having read it. Hannah put down the ruler. She looked at the document for several seconds without speaking. I watched her eyes move across the field twice. The same two-pass reading she does with anything she considers significant. Then she looked at the symbol on the map, the circled one. The one the ruler had just confirmed sits at 51.4 degrees latitude. Then back at the document. Rook, I said yes. That's a chess piece. I said I knew. The crescent nodes weren't named, they were numbered. The crescent below the step marker at 47 Marginal Road had a 1 cut into it. The next had a 2. The sequence was the identity. There was no name for the node itself. The building was just a location. The process was just a process. If this node has a name, if the network assigned it a name rather than a number, then it isn't part of the same sequence system. It isn't a step. It's something categorically different. She said the last part quietly, looking at the map rather than at me. I asked her whether she'd ever seen the word rook anywhere in the archive material. Any document, any catalog card, any notation in the chamber. She said no. She said she would have remembered. I asked whether it was possible the name was produced by the document itself, that the network chose the name in the moment, the way the 1887 document apparently filled in the name of whoever was reading it. She said she didn't know. She said that was a question worth keeping on the record. Then she picked up the pencil and wrote Rook in small letters beside the circled symbol on the map. Neat, small capitals. She underlined it once. Then she turned the map toward me and tapped the symbol once. This one, she said quietly, doesn't have a stairwell. I reached for the document to look at the node field again. The page moved.